President Obama makes bold statements about racism on a radio show, and he uses what some consider offensive language to do so. What do his statements mean to Charleston and to the debate over the Confederate flag? Let's talk.
So I'm in the workspace, doing what's best for the moment, for the present moment, now. Doing what it takes to spend time with my family, to be around for birthdays, holidays, and a little bit more. So I'm in the workspace. Calvin got himself a job. And every day, every other, more and more frequent, we got the N-word being thrown around. So this is interesting. So the majority are just popping off. Maybe because they think they're cool. Maybe because they think that's cool. Others are just following. Oh wow, nothing's happening? Is this guy, is the one African-American male going to say anything?
So listen to this.
Racism.
Racism. We are not cured of.
Clearly.
And it's not just a matter of it not being polite to say nigger in public. That's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not. It's not just a matter of overt discrimination. Societies don't overnight completely erase everything that happened 200 to 300 years prior.
See, that's what it is. Watch the tongue. Hey, do you hear that gossip? Nah, I don't. I'm in my own world. But we know they talking. But why are you more concerned about somebody else talking than what you need to do? Put a finger on the end point. That's my challenge for you. To put a finger on the end point. What needs to change from you to move your mindset to mitigate to the positive changes that are going to allow you to be venom-free from that toxic tongue? What needs to change in your life? Pick one variable. What needs to change? For you to just decide one day you're just going to let it sink into your blood. That's how it is, and it takes time for things to get out of the blood. You sit there and you pumping PCP, you pumping heroin. It takes time. You're going to have to just weed off that bender. And understand that the poison tongue, the toxic tongue is the exact same way. You can't just decide today, I don't want to be around toxic people, but yesterday I was, and 2 days later from now I will be. Look, if it's a part of your life, it's a part of your life. So your only choice is right now to say, what's the one thing I need to change in my life to remove some toxicity out of my life? Watch your tongue. If you ain't get the hint yet, watch your tongue.
What are your thoughts on what he says there?
Well, I thought the president was correct. He didn't mince terms. We are talking about racism being more than just the passive use of a derogatory term. We're talking about institutional and systemic racism. And I think that people fail to realize the shadow, the long shadow that slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and oppression have in this country.
Now you heard Obama's piece. Time to hear mine. From a personal standpoint, one of my coworkers was intelligent enough to know that he wanted to know more. Well, Pernell, what's your personal opinion? How do you feel? I care about your take. Personally, if I'm singing a song, the type of town I grew up in, singing this song, it's the flow of it. You want to like relate and get in touch with it. You want to feel it. So if in the flow, Tupac happens to say the N-word, I want to flow with it. Just like Obama said, like slavery goes deeper than a word. And so this is what I told him. I said, listen, for me, I look at it as ignorance. Now, what he was surprised to know was I said even ignorance on my behalf, where I used to be one to react to the N-word. I used to be one to want to get physical, right? Just like all of my peers. Part of our conditioning as a culture, as a society, to attack ourselves. And one day I just realized, like, I don't want to attack myself. I don't want to attack you either. You know, I want to live life on my terms. And so for me, I personally eradicated the word out of my vocabulary. Why? Because of the damage that it does to me. The damage that it does to to barriers that are created between different races or cultures or societies or languages, you know. Recognize that there are no barriers and that you are all things. And when you stop considering a language barrier, a cultural barrier, all of these barriers, recognize that as a distraction. Donald Trump's barrier, stop being afraid to say someone's name and the actions that follow behind. Stop putting so much emphasis on things outside of yourself. If you put half the effort, half the energy, half the emphasis on yourself that you put for the judgment you give to others, I would like to see how you perceive yourself then. I would like to see how you perceive yourself then. Because this is the problem. No one can speak for something that they have not gone through, number one. But number two, there's levels to this. So it was interesting, you know, more importantly, I respect the man for coming to me and saying, look, like on my own individual behalf, this is how I feel, and I'm curious about how you feel. And right there, that's the next step. That's the next step. Stop being afraid to talk about racism. Stop being afraid to talk about sex. Stop being afraid to talk about orientation. Be an adult and have a conversation. And maybe now you become more empathetic towards the person that you may or may not be disrespecting. You don't even know. But we cannot assume. We cannot take things personally. We have to live knowing that without sin, we were doing our best. Impeccable. This is the 4 agreements, ladies and gentlemen. So expand yourself, expand your knowledge, expand where you are to where you're going. Remember who you are and who you're becoming. It's Pernell Bobby checking in with you. Try that exercise. I'll see you soon.